When you look at Afterlife movies, like, Heaven Can Wait, Defending Your Life, what did you know you wanted to do differently in focusing on the concept of eternity?
It's funny that, when I first pitched this to Trevor, he said, Defending Your Life is one of his favorite movies. And I was always, for me, the charm of, the bureaucracy of these, in a place that is just so hard to wrap your head around,
right,
that I now understand why they did it, because sitting down to write it, it's like you gotta base it in something and create the rules and stuff, sure, like that. And but what I thought was most interesting about this goes back to the initial, when I had this idea 10 years ago or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. People are fascinated by the afterlife. I think about it all the time. Does it, sure, exist? Doesn't it exist? And I just got to a point where I was like, well, if it does exist, I think that our human problems probably persist there.
Sure.
And so how do we set up the most dramatic question we can there? And it really, I grew up, Irish Catholic, and, I've seen people get divorced, and I'm just like, I've seen, people lose their partners, and it's like, well, and then remarry, and it's like, well, this could set up something interesting in the afterlife if it exists. And it really spawned from that. But I did, those classics, like the bureaucracy of it all and, right, how it works was so fun to dive in on, to be completely honest. That we had so much fun early on breaking that stuff.
Great. So you've gone through many levels of being a producer. What were your responsibilities for Eternity that you hadn't necessarily done on other sets?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, what's interesting about Eternity is it's probably the earliest I've ever come into a project. Pat,
from sentence one.
Yeah, Pat literally pitched us one sentence, which was, a woman shows up and has her two husbands to choose between who to spend her afterlife with. And I think Tim and I really felt like this is such a big idea to hang a romance around and a comedy around. And so it really was cracking the world with Pat. It was definitely the most I've ever been involved in the early stage of a development. Mm-hmm. Just, we kind of sat around for days and days and days building out all the rules of the afterlife, and then you went off and wrote it.
It was those COVID days. So we were in a bubble together.
We actually were in a bubble together, for real. Our families were bubbled, and we actually went on a trip to Ojai. Yeah. We got a house in Ojai, and our kids went down, and you and I went out by the fire, and we just started riffing for hours on this movie.
You think about it, like, the afterlife at that stage of the process could have been anything. So it was a big, broad thing that we had to shape into something. But they were truly, Tim and Trevor were in it from the start.
But and then just seeing it through every facet. And I'll say, this is actually, I think, this might be the first movie that Tim and I have ever produced just fully on our own, without partners.
Oh, okay.
And so just every component of this movie we were all in on, and no movie's easy to make, so it's always a journey.
So when you were thinking about the love connections between Larry, Joan, and Luke, what was different about a 65-year Earth connection versus a whirlwind but deep love of youth that you considered, and how did it affect your approach to the relationships?
So I think that's obviously really core to the whole movie. It's these two different kinds of love almost. It's the kind that you remember, and that's fiery and sparky and makes for an incredible memory, and then the kind that you live for a long time.
Right.
And honestly, the kind that you live for a long time, there's stuff in this movie that I stole directly from my parents. Literally, they talk in there, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a moment that they talk about, Larry and Joan talk about their first date. That's my parents' first date. And so I think that really trying to make it feel as lived in and real as a relationship can be, because I'm married. It's not perfect. It's tricky, right?
Yeah.
And so really trying to not sugarcoat things was important in getting those two different relationships.
Very good.
And I remember, the big thing for me that really cracked was hearing that bickering, that is love. that's a reflection of comfort with someone, and that is an incredibly potent form of love. And I think, we're both married and have kids, and, in all the whirlwind of managing schools and this and that and getting for after, it's like, it's hard to remember. It's important, I think, sometimes to reflect on the idea that all of this that doesn't feel romantic is still a very potent form of love. And I think that realization was a really beautiful expression.
That's good. Now, since a movie is actually a temporary manufacturing company, like one, for example, that makes widgets, what is important about the culture of the company that makes the result better? And who is the true project manager on the floor of a movie production?
It's a great question. I would think that so much credit is due to David Frayne on this movie, our director.
Okay.
He came in early with a big vision for this movie. He really cracked the script with Pat and took it from something that was already good but much, much better. And then really had the vision, and we all got in line. And our job, I think Tim and my job specifically, was how do we support this vision at all costs? And so I'd say it starts there. And look, it doesn't hurt with the fact that he's the kindest, most warm human being to be around, and I think that trickled down.
Everybody says that kind of thing, but it is true.
It is true. Yeah.
So this is my first movie that's gotten made. So many people came up to me on set and said, just so you know, it doesn't normally go this way. This is going so smoothly and well. Testament to Dave.
I will say this, and it is not just because we're promoting this movie. It is genuinely like one of the most special experiences of my entire life, making this movie.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So you had many concepts of eternity on the convention floor. How many concepts did you come up with, and which ones were most unusual and made you laugh the most?
So this is all the credit in the world goes to David Frayne on the specific worlds. It was initially which is still the core debate of like, where are we going to go? Beach or mountain?
Right.
And when David came in, he was like, well, it should actually be a million different options, and it should be really hyper specific. And so I don't even know what my favorite is, but it was so wild and fun to see him go in on that specific aspect of this, and to walk around the set, because you'd walk around and turn a corner and realize, oh, there's infantilization world. I was like, what's going on?
We had a board in our production office. David had a board outside his office, and every day new eternity ideas would pop up, and some would get taken down, and he wrote hundreds of ideas, and the taglines for them. I mean, it was one of those things where everyone in the production office would come up to the board. Everyone wanted to see the board. I've never been on a movie where that's ever happened.
What's also so fun about that, though, is there are so many hidden jokes in the movie.
Yeah.
So if you go watch this thing 2-3 times, you'll pick up new things.
Yeah. It's awesome. So you've been different levels of producer on notable independents, big star-studded dramas. What are the common elements that all levels of movies must have to have a successful production? And what have you noticed is missing from productions that weren't as successful in retrospect?
A clear point of view, a strong script. I think our least successful productions have been ones where even we were confused about what we were after. And I think those were lessons to us about feeling confident in the material and the filmmaker. Because once you have that, then it's really, it probably doesn't always work out, but in our experience, the movies we're really, really proud of have been because we have made all the right choices at the beginning of the process in terms of getting the script to a place that we really understand it, and feeling like we have a director who absolutely has a point of view on it.
I love the post, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard. You're the greatest director of all time there.
When you were a television writer, as you were with Designated Survivor, what does that train you for creating your own world in something like Eternity, as far as that fast writing and then slowing it down to create the new world?
I think I got thrown into a network television writer's room with no business being in one. I came from the world of politics, and so I literally went from writing for the real White House, for Barack Obama's White House, to this fake White House on Designated Survivor, which was a CBC show. Yeah, that's my background. Wow. And so it was a crash course, right? Like it was, oh, wait, we have to come up with 22 hours of TV. How do we do that? And so it was you learn trial by fire. And but to your point, really writing fast and being ready to like just have as many ideas as possible. And then for Eternity, it was, or for honestly my sort of switch over to the feature side, it's been so fun because you have, at least in the beginning stages, you've got some autonomy. You can build your own world. You're the showrunner in your mind, right? And it's been so much fun. I've loved every second.
So the final question for both of you is pretty easy. Which Eternity would each of you pick and why? And I'm sure everybody's asked.
Yeah, but it's actually the hardest one.
Yeah, because our answers are boring. We need to. I wish I had more time to prep this answer. I think
I'm going to steal David's answer.
Okay, well I don't know what that is yet.
Okay, you go.
I think the things I would actually choose are probably a nice beachy location. And I would pick Hawaii, most likely. Or I would love movies to be there if there's a possibility of that. But then, I was thinking recently, it's like, honestly, I would want an eternity with my family. Like, I don't care where. Just, that's all.
Yeah. Well, that's hopefully, I don't want to give anything away. But I think Cape May, New Jersey is where I would spend eternity.
Oh, there you go.
And with my family.
Yeah.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2025.